What's going on, guys? This is the Edge DFS. We're talking Showdown, Patriots versus Jets on Monday Night Football. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles. Ellie Hernandez, what's going on, man? How's Indiana treating you?
Yeah, man, it has been a good day for me, at all. Indiana's cool, but, Cardinals lost, the Steelers somehow won, and now I have no idea what's happening on the Sunday night game, so it's been a rough day for me.
We are recording this at halftime of the Sunday Night Shitfest.
I
Saints.
thought this was going to be a good game. I really did.
I mentioned on our last show that if this game, I think I said 34-10 in favor of the Saints. If it turned out that way, I would be slightly surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. I'm shocked right now. I think it's 31-0. Is it 31-0 at halftime?
Yeah,
Oh my God! You need those 5-1 Saints stacks right now. Anyways, we're gonna move on to what I think is probably gonna be even a worse game. This is the New England Patriots versus the practice squad for the New York Jets. Where do we even start here, man? Like, how do we decode the starters? How do we pick from a bunch of players that already the Patriots? It's an impossible team to decode when it comes to the wide receivers and their running backs. Now you have a whole other team with a backup quarterback and a bunch of potential backups playing, and they have no wins. They're 0-8. Both of these teams came off of a loss. The Patriots lost by 3 points. Cam Newton fumbled to lose them the game, and the Jets got absolutely dominated, which by no surprise, but I think it was 31-3 or something like that last week. Or 31-9, I think, when they didn't score a touchdown. Anyways, talk to me about this. While I pull up the Vegas line here, tell me what you think. Tell me what's going on here.
I think whoever the primetime scheduler is going to lose his job.
Oh
That's
my
about what
God.
I have to say about this game. There's been, I mean, at this point, you just need to schedule the Seahawks Cardinals for every primetime game. Just make it a season of that. I mean, that's been the only one of the. It's the only memorable primetime game we've had. And I mean, looking at both these teams, this is just going to be an absolute shit show. I mean, you may just be fine just blindly throwing darts at a dartboard full of these players' names, and you'll probably have just as much luck as most people will tomorrow night. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we're going to have to try and find a strategy here to get the right guys in. But I really think it's going to be important to really stick to some sort of game script here, because it's going to be few points allocated in very tight spots. So.
Yeah, so stick with us, guys. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. Stick with us to the end. We're going to attempt to build a lineup that doesn't make us want to vomit all over our computers. As of now, we're looking at New England is a minus 442, which gives them about an 81.5% win probability. The implied total for this game is 41.5.
Time to start it up, America.
Yeah, there we go. And it's a minus 9.5 spread. The Jets their implied total is 16, which is, I think that's Vegas's just number they throw out when they have no clue what the hell's going on. Because, to be quite honest, the Giants were at 16, I believe, a couple slates ago, and the Cowboys a couple Showdown slates ago were at 16. I think that's just the number for you suck, and we're gonna hope you score 16 points, because I don't even think either of those teams even hit their implied total. I don't think they did. So I don't think the Jets really have a chance here either, unless something weird happens. What's the first thing? Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, it's just a weird total. Again, I don't think you can project an NFL game to be at like 36.5 just because they're NFL teams, right? But I mean, at the same time, I feel like we're really reaching here. It's like they took 41.5 and they said, hey, I think the Pats are going to score 25.5 points.
Yeah.
And then just subtracted it. I don't think they even actually made a projection for the Jets. They just went with their their default total and then just reverse engineer.
They didn't even run their sims. They didn't run any of their models. They're just like, you know what? Just put them at 16. Fuck it. You know.
So like, we're not gonna pay somebody to run those sims. Just send them
yeah,
home.
exactly. So, I mean, this is gonna be brutal because if New England was at least a good team, which I don't think they are, and I don't think anybody can actually say that they're a good team. I think they're obviously average, maybe slightly below average. We know the Jets are the worst team in the NFL. At least with Sam Darnold playing, they have a little bit of upside. There's a little bit of excitement. I mean, I use that term very loosely. But at least these grown men can go out and say, you know what, we have a chance to at least compete. You got most likely Joe Flacco starting for this team. Let's move over to the injuries and talk more about where we go from here. So with the New England Patriots, you've got Sony Michel, who's on the IR. He's questionable. He actually can return if they activate him tomorrow. So this is one of those situations we've seen it with CMC. We've seen it with a couple of other guys this year where on the day we're waiting for them to be activated. And if they're activated by, I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern or noon Eastern, whatever it is, they're going to end up playing. So just keep an eye on that. If you don't hear about them getting activated, they're probably out. And if Sony Michel is activated in this game, it just muddies the waters even more. And we'll get into the running back situation here. Damian Harris is also questionable. I don't know which way they're leaning here. To be quite honest, it would be amazing if both of these guys were out. But I think Damian Harris is trending towards playing. We'll just have to check in with that tomorrow. Like I said, we're recording this on Sunday night, so we don't have all the information. Just please stay up to date on these injuries and actually check Twitter, check websites, whatever it is you use. Ryan Izzo, questionable. I don't even know why I put him on there. Then you got N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman are out. Moving over to the Jets, we've got Jamison Crowder, which is big news because if Jamison Crowder plays, he is questionable in this game. If he plays, that could change a lot when it comes to DFS because he's possibly the best player in this entire game.
I got to interrupt you. So, Tampa defense just recovered a fumble. Looks like this is their chance.
All right. Come on.
Sorry about that.
No. I just make this a game. Make this a game. If Tampa Bay doesn't score here soon, everyone just might start benching their players, and then this whole thing is over. Anyways, we got Jamison Crowder, who's the best skill position player on the slate, in my opinion. He's questionable. I think if I had to give it a percentage chance of him playing, I'd maybe give it a 70% chance. I think Brashad Perriman is also in that. These are the number 1, number 2 wide receivers for this team, so this is sort of a big deal. Perriman's questionable, but he's trending towards starting. And then you got Sam Ficken, who's the kicker, who's doubtful. I think he's going to be out. I think it was Casillas or something like that. He's not even in my fantasy cruncher player pool at the moment. I had to look him up on DraftKings.
Sergio
Castillo, yeah. So he's probably going to get to play this week. So make sure you don't have Ficken in, obviously. Sam Darnold's doubtful. He's probably not going to play. I don't think they're going to throw this guy out there if he doesn't need to be out there. And Chris Hogan is out. So, in saying that, let's move over to our ownership predictions. What are your thoughts on ownership for this slate? We don't have ownership obviously out, so we're going to have to take some guesses here, and then you guys can test us tomorrow when you watch this. What are your opinions on the highest owned players in this slate, and where do you think some low ownership is going to come in here?
I honestly think Jamison Crowder might end up being the highest owned on the slate. If he plays, he can get you 45 points with 16 receptions and 30 yards. So
damn, that is a ceiling. That's a ceiling projection there, bro. That's like a 99 percentile projection, bro.
No, I know, but look at these target numbers, bro. Like 13, 10, 10, 13. He's had the.
I just realized that my fan was on the whole time. Sorry, guys. I'll fix that in editing, hopefully. All right, go ahead.
we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't hear it. Anyways, dude, he's had insane targets. And when you're the only good person on your team, you guys got rid of Le'Veon Bell, and I mean, even he was better than everybody on the team, and he didn't get a fucking play. So, like, I think Jamison Crowder, if he isn't the highest owned player on the slate, then Joe Flacco died pregame, or nobody cares about the Jets, which is, both are very possible. So I'm leaning towards Jamison Crowder probably at like 70%. Cam Newton, I think he might come in a little bit lower owned than we expect, just because he's been such garbage lately. I mean,
Yeah.
he has the rushing upside, of course, but I don't think you can really say anybody on the Patriots has rushing upside, because you have to make a play, otherwise you're not getting the ball anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Other than that, I think it comes down to Damian Harris. His ownership is going to be quite interesting.
I think I'll probably have to disagree with you slightly. I think Cam Newton, for any casual players that are going to play tomorrow, and even me playing, like, it's so hard to make a stand on anybody. I think Cam Newton, I know he's at 13.2K, and we'll get into pricing here in a minute. All right, that might be the highest priced player on a Showdown slate that I've seen. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but that's 13.2K is a lot.
It's the highest one that just sucks too. So that's for sure.
So in my opinion, I think it's going to be easy that he's the highest owned player and the highest owned captain. And I struggled with how to approach Cam Newton. I just think he's got 2 touchdown passes this year, and I think he's got 6 rushing touchdowns. He's the number 1 running back on the team. He's going to touch the ball every time. I think there is definitely an opportunity for... Sorry, I'm watching the game. There's definitely an opportunity for him to be the highest owned player, and I think you got to have him in your lineups, in my opinion, because this whole offense is going to run through him. I think you're right about Jamison Crowder, but from there, I don't know what to think. I legit don't know what to think, and I'm curious to see how the models are going to project out this ownership, because this is similar to, in my opinion, this is similar to the San Francisco 49ers playing with their practice squad. There's no point in doing any sims when it comes to simulating out these games, your Monte Carlo sims, to get some information on how often these guys show up in the captain, et cetera, because we just don't have enough data on a lot of these guys, especially when they're questionable 90 minutes before lock. It's going to be really hard. I think, me personally, I'm not going to touch a lineup until 90 minutes before lock, till I get confirmation about who's in and who's not in, and also about a better idea on ownership. All right, so anyways, let's move on to our breakdown. We're going to break down each position quickly here, as best as we can. There's not really a whole lot to talk about when it comes to some of these positions, so we're going to just start with the quarterbacks. We've talked about Cam Newton, but Joe Flacco, I mean, he's at 9,400. This is in range with Daniel Jones. It's in range with some of these lower end quarterbacks. Personally, I think he's overpriced. If he was 86, 87, then there's a chance that I play him. What are the chances that this guy is the highest scoring player on his team, going against a pretty good defense and playing with a bunch of scrubs on the rest of his team?
I think it's actually I don't think it's going to be that hard to be the highest scoring player on the Jets, first of all. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to be the highest scoring guy. Now, the only thing is, and again, I don't know, I don't even know if it's going to come down to this, because pricing, I mean, you got your couple of top guys, then outside of that, you're going to be kind of balanced as far as pricing goes. So you might have to leave a lot of salary on the table, but I don't know if I don't think I'm going to have much of Joe Flacco, man. I don't think he can get anything done.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you can pay down at that position, pay down. You're looking at 12 points. I mean, one reception for 60 yards is 7 at 3,500, and you're going to get much better output with a higher upside. I don't like Joe Flacco. I just don't. So
I don't see any reason to get a lot of him. I might actually spread him around, maybe in 1 or 2 lineups. I just don't like him. I mean, if he was on a better team, obviously the quarterback is always a great option in Showdown, but depending on his his ownership, I just don't see how I can play too much of him. We're going to wait to see his ownership. What do you think he's going to be owned? Do you think he's going to be like in the 30% owned category?
Yeah, probably 30s,
Yeah.
low 40s. I mean, again, he does have the potential to be the highest scoring on the Jets, and if anybody can put up a little bit of points on the Jets, I would assume it'd be the quarterback. But who knows? But I think there's going to be a decent amount of exposure to him. I don't think it's going to be crazy, but yeah, I think mid 30s to mid 40s.
All right, so let's move to the Jets here. Let's move to the running backs. We've got LaMichael Perrine. Is it Perrine? Perrine. Jesus. That's just that shows you how much I know about the Jets.
Yeah, no, I only know Samaje Perine from Notre Dame, I think it was.
And, there it is.
Oh, what's that CJ process? I don't know. They're all the same.
Same thing.
Yeah, these like 14th string running backs, but that's the only reason why I say his name.
So Perine is at 5,800, and he's the starting running back here. But you're looking at a team who's an underdog. I don't see them running the ball much. I mean, the good news about Perine is he does get some volume when it comes to receptions. He does run routes, and I think in this situation, if the game script works out the way we think it's going to, I think that Perine is going to have opportunity for some dink and dumps out of the backfield. If we just look at some of when it comes to splits, when it comes to snaps, last week, and this is hard to judge because last week they were getting their ass kicked, which could be a similar situation. Last week, Perine had 50% of the snaps, Frank Gore had 40, and Ty Johnson had about 10. So you're looking at a committee here for the most part, even though the previous week Perine had 73% of the snaps, and the previous week he had 56. So it could just be sort of a game script situation where Frank Gore is getting a little bit more action. I just feel like I don't know if I could touch Frank Gore this week. At 2,800, I know he's a good price, and I know he could end up getting a vultured goal line touchdown. It's totally possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. But if this team is losing by 2-3 touchdowns, he's just not going to be in the game. How do you decode this running back situation for the Jets, and do you even want to play it with these guys at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have a little bit of exposure to. I might have a little bit of exposure to Perine. The running back committee thing is kind of hard to judge, but he seems to be getting kind of the more balanced workload in the passing game as well. So we're getting several rush attempts as well as a couple targets. So there's a little bit more upside there for me. Frank Gore, yeah, he's just really old, and I mean he's good for a vulture touchdown maybe once a year, but I'm gonna have minimal exposure there. I might land there a couple times just because of how the pricing works out, but we'll see. I may have a little bit of interest in Ty Johnson. I don't know. I really don't know, man. If there's any kind of ownership trend that suggests he might be a valid play, I might jam him in there. I mean, he's only $200, and 10% of the snaps isn't few enough, I think, to miss out on the $200 opportunity, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
it could be a little bit of interest. It could be a little interesting. I'm not going to have too much of any of them, just because I do anticipate they're going to be down most of the game. So I wouldn't expect them to rush all that often.
And look, we're going to get into some roster construction ideas when it comes to like how to set up some groups and potentially like max exposures on some of these players, because in this case, I think you got to spread yourself out quite a bit. If you're MMEing, you should spread yourself out. And if you're, one of these single entry or just one hand-built lineup kind of a person, you're just going to have to kind of play it by ear, because I just don't know that you can commit to anybody in this game. I think the Patriots, you can commit to them a little bit more, but it's the same situation on the other side of the ball. Let's transition to one of the most notoriously frustrating backfields to figure out, just even in the past like 10 years. You're talking about the Patriots running backs, And we have Damian Harris, who, I mean, is he the starter? I don't know. Let's not even call any of these guys starters. Let's not call them backups. Let's just talk about him because he's at 10.2K. That's like legit double of what James White's salary is. You have Damian Harris, who has been injured, and he is questionable. He did play Week 8. He did have 16 rushes for 102 yards against Buffalo and a touchdown. He showed a lot of promise in Week 4 as well. He had 100 yards there. He's getting volume. He's getting rush attempts. First, talk about Damian Harris, and then we'll go down the list of all the other guys.
So Damian Harris, I have a little bit of experience with watching at Alabama. He's a very explosive back, and the Patriots, they love him. They really do. He's been hurt, and that's why he hasn't been worked in a lot there. He's just a little bit more balanced with his ability to run with a little bit of power and have that added speed element. Sonny Michel was supposed to be able to do that, but he really misses out on kind of that open field speed, that top end speed, and I think that's an edge that Damian Harris has that the other backs don't. And now keep in mind, I love James White. I'm sorry, I love Damian Harris. I love James White too. I mean, I always on James White, but here's the thing: if Sonny Michel is in, that does change my opinion of what's happening here a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you have you have too many running backs at that point, because they will get all four involved. You'll see Rex Burkhead, James White, Damian Harris, and Sonny Michel. Yeah. So that might be a little too much for me. But if I'm being completely honest with you, dude, I have no problem stacking up as many of these running backs as you want. 4 probably would be too much. 3, I don't think is a terrible call on this kind of a slate. I really have no idea how any Jets player is going to get there. And if you don't need to throw the ball in the NFL and you can just run it down somebody's throat, I really think this is a Patriots team that's going to do that. They're going to run the ball with Cam Newton, and they're going to hand off to one of their 17 running backs. So yeah. I think you can stack 2, 3, and be fine.
Exactly. Now we're under the assumption that Sonny Michel is not going to play. That's how we're handling this right now. So if Sonny Michel does play, I mean, I don't even know what to tell you. I like it's an opportunity to withdraw your entries, maybe. I don't know what to do because there's going to be legit Sonny Michel, Damian Harris. I think Damian Harris is an absolute fade if Sonny Michel plays, obviously. But Sonny Michel could go out there and get 2-3 snaps and he's done the whole game because maybe he did something wrong. He pissed Bill Belichick off. I don't know. I think the safe options are going to be James White and Rex Burkhead. Those guys aren't really interfered with if Sonny Michel comes back. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
So, yeah, this one's at the audience, right? This is going to be a game where if you're a local fan of one of these teams and you might randomly know of one of these like Jacob Johnson type guys and be like, yeah, dude, he looked really good. Comment in the chat. Those are the ways you get different on a slate like this. And honestly, getting a little edge on something like this is huge. These teams could both be vying for the number 1 pick. So this could be an intentionally shitfest, right? So what you might see is random fucking dudes getting some love on the field to see if they're going to be on an NFL team next year.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I'd like to point out for this. You never know what you're going to see in a game like this. And especially Bill Belichick, he's going to rotate random dudes in there. So, call something out and interact and we'll follow along. Obviously, we're not going to steal your picks, but let's hear them.
Yeah,
right,
if you guys, comment in the YouTube, on the YouTube comments. We also have a free Discord where we're talking. Hit that up. We want to hear your opinions too. If you guys have some inside scoop on something and you've watched some of these players, please, because a lot of these players we just don't know about. They're question marks. So.
Yeah, and this is the NFL is different than any other sport. Like if you wanted to try and convince me that Mookie Betts or Mike Trout are the best player in baseball, like I don't give a shit about that. There's no possible way. But you can literally watch game film and see that somebody is a different type of player, right? Even the 3.5 targets that DeAndre Hopkins got today, you can see that when he's being guarded, it doesn't matter. Like, he's
Yeah.
a different type of athlete on the field, and if your local fans are going to have the best eyes to see stuff like that. But anyways, I digress, man. I want to see some engagement here from any of our followers.
Exactly. Now, listen, when it comes to Showdown more specifically, just you can watch the games. I've said this before. Just watch the games. Like, watch the last game, and watch, if you have time, watch the last two games. Look at the snap counts. Look at the target amounts. Look at all that stuff. That's really how you figure out these weird situations, and that's how you get a big edge. Because if you can find the Richie James situation from the other night, if you knew Richie James was crushing it and you watched a couple games where he absolutely had opportunity but it didn't pop up in the box score, you won a lot of money. And it's the same situation here with these Jets wide receivers, which we're going to get to now or in a second. First, I want to talk about James Whitehead and Rex Burkhead. I'm sorry.
Same thing. It's the same thing, dude.
James White and Rex Burkhead. I'm leaning... God damn it. I'm leaning towards James White here, obviously. I've always loved James White. This guy he gets receptions out of the backfield. He probably is not going to get any goal line carries. But he is the go-to guy for Belichick when this team needs a first down, and especially the fact that Cam Newton cannot throw a ball more than 6 yards down the field. I think he's going to get targets. I think he's going to get receptions. And even if they're leading, he's going to be in the game for a couple of snaps. I like James Whitehead the most. The projections like him the most. But also look at Rex Burkhead too. Play with him as well, because I honestly think you could actually get White and Burkhead in the same lineup, especially if it's a close game. They're going to rotate these guys in and out. And if Sony Michel plays, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to touch the Michel Damian Harris role, whatever that role is. I just don't want to touch it. If Harris is in, I will consider it, but the fact that he's 10.2K makes it really difficult. James White versus Burkhead, real quick, your thoughts, and we'll move on over to the wide receivers.
I like White more than Burkhead, but I love James White. I think both are viable.
All right, so wide receivers for the Jets. Who? We've got Jamison Crowder at 11.2K. He's one of the highest priced guys on the slate, and he should be. You got Braxton Berrios, 5.4K. Denzel Mims at 5K. Rashad Perriman at 4.2K, which is pretty interesting. He's that low. And then you got Jeff Smith at 1,000 flat. So we're going to assume that Crowder and Perriman are both going to play in this game because they're trending up. It looks like I know they're questionable, but it looks like they should play this game. Obviously, Crowder, in my opinion, if the Jets are losing, Crowder is going to get all the receptions, but he's going to get all of the targets, but he's also going to garner the best of the defense. So how do you handle this? Basically, there's 5 wide receivers that I would consider playing that are going to be in my player pool from this team. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite value? And are you getting more than one of these guys in your lineups?
So I think Jamison Crowder is the best wide receiver on the Jets. I would love to have a decent amount of Jamison Crowder. The problem is I don't know if Joe Flacco is going to be able to complete the pass. So that takes a little bit of my exposure away from these guys. Now, if I see that Jamison Crowder is coming in pretty low on ownership, then I have no problem jamming him in as many lineups as I can. Braxton Berrios, I just don't have interest in him. So that's my comment on Braxton Berrios. Denzel Mims, I honestly think the Jets love him and they want to work him into that number 2 role. I think that's really Rashad Perriman's job right now. And the injury situation isn't really helping out any of those wide receivers maintain that second and third slot. So it'll be interesting, but I really think Denzel Mims being priced up a little bit more over Brashad Perriman is going to open up some interesting leverage plays, because people are just going to naturally pay down for Perriman, and Mims doesn't have much much activity this season because of his injury situation, and then I honestly think that he could do all right. The interesting part again is his price tag, so that's gonna probably limit my exposure there, but I think I'll still be above the field. And then Brashad Perriman, again, I don't think he's a bad play. I think he's a little expensive, but he definitely has the upside. He's a very fast wide receiver, and he can take it to the house, and that's why he's on the team. Jeff Smith, I probably won't touch unless Crowder or one of these wide receivers is out, specifically Crowder or Perriman.
Yeah.
But even then, again, I don't know if taking a fifth string wide receiver on a team that has a quarterback that hasn't really been good since he was in the league. So I don't know, man. It's going to be rough. But Jeff Smith at 1K isn't bad if there's an injury.
Yeah, I have to agree with you here. I think the pecking order is as follows. I think it's Crowder, a clear number one, and then Perriman and Mims are most likely 2A, 2B, but I think Perriman's probably a straight-up number 2. Denzel Mims most likely number 3. These guys haven't really played together much, so that's the hard part. Like week 8, Perriman and Crowder were out. So Denzel Mims got most of the snaps. Week 7, Crowder was out, and Perriman got most of the snaps. It was Perriman, Mims, and Berrios in that order. And then week 6, Mims was out, and you had Crowder, Perriman, and then Jeff Smith stepping up. So look, if one of these guys is out, I think you can actually prioritize Jeff Smith, because Braxton Berrios, he has been getting some snaps recently, but week 6 he only got 22%. I don't know if that was an injury thing or not. That was also, we have to look at when you're doing your research, and I suggest you just look at some stats before you start building lineups. Just know that Joe Flacco started week 5 and 6 over Sam Darnold. There's not really a lot of correlation. Like, I wasn't able to really find like one receiver that really stuck out, like that Jeff Flacco liked more than others. And it's also hard to tell because a lot of these guys have been injured. So my suggestion would be with these guys is to spread out as much as you can. Now, if I had Jamison Crowder in every lineup, I would be okay with that. I know he's going to garner sort of the best defenders on the Patriots, but at a certain point, I know these coaches, I know that you can say Adam Gase is a terrible coach and he should be fired, and he should be. But at a certain point, these guys, they spend 80 hours a week trying to figure out how to win. So they're going to somehow figure out how to get these guys open. And in this particular game, they have nothing to lose. They're going to do whatever they want. There's no pressure on them at all coming into this game. So expect some weird shit. Expect some reverses. Expect some weird trick plays, because why not? They have no reason to have to play conservative. If they lose, they're projected to lose. Everyone thinks they're going to lose. So they might as well just do whatever the hell they want. I would highly suggest making a group of Berrios, Mims, Perriman, and limiting it to one, in my opinion. Simply because, look, the way these builds are going to turn out, you're probably going to have a lot of 4-2s and 5-1s. I don't think you need to have any 3-3s this week, unless you think the Jets can win, and unless you think you can have a low-owned captain. But if you're doing 4-2s with the Patriots, you're going to want to have Jamison Crowder, and you're not going to want to have another wide receiver with him, in my opinion. I don't know who you're going to pair with him. Maybe you go Flacco. But look, if you think that both of these guys can go off, if you think Crowder and Perriman can both go off, then you're probably going to want to pair them with Flacco, because at that point, Flacco's absorbing all of those yards and potential touchdowns. So just think of it this way. Play Crowder. I know he's going to be high owned. And then find a way to be different with your other spot on the Jets. If you want to go 4-2 Jets, obviously you can play Crowder, Perriman, or Crowder Mims, and mix in some other players there. Me personally, I don't want to have more than one of these other guys. I just want to have Crowder. That's it. And I would definitely set up a group for all my wide receivers to max it at 1. If I'm not playing Crowder, then I'll want to get another one of those other guys in there just to mix it up. Anyways, any advice on roster construction for these wide receivers, and if you're setting any groups?
No, I won't set any groups, but I'll only be playing at most 2 wide receiver or 2 Jets. So I'll probably be very selective of what I allow in there. I don't know, man. I just don't think you stack anything on the Jets side of the ball. Like, you're looking at a kicker, and whoever you think the highest scoring Jet's going to be, that's maybe the best there. I don't know, dude. It's going to be rough, but I don't plan on stacking much in at all.
I guess my overall suggestion, and we'll talk more about this later, is I don't think any lineup is bad this week. If I submitted a lineup that had a $35,000 salary out of $50,000, whatever. I don't care because me personally, I'm obviously going to play the slate. I'm not going to put a lot of money into the slate, but I'm going to play. I'm going to put the time and effort in, and I'm not going to worry about if I lose everything because in this case, the variance is so high. Just embrace that variance and, accept the fact that some 4-string wide receiver can potentially go off from the Patriots or from the Jets that you've never even heard of. So speaking of the Patriots, let's move on to the wide receivers for these guys. So like I said, you have N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman are out. So those are the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers for this team. Not that they were really getting a lot of volume in the first place, but if Julian Edelman was playing in this game, he would be 99% owned. I think everyone would play him. There's no reason not to. And N'Keal Harry, while he has some upside, and I think he's by default one of the best wide receivers on this team, I just don't think he's going to last in the league very long, in my opinion. So with those guys out, it makes it really hard to figure out where we go. You have Jacoby and Myers law firm. You have at 9,000, which is absolutely insane. If this was any other normal slate, he'd be priced at 3,200 or 2,000 flat. So the fact that he's at 9,000 is just crazy. I mean, DraftKings had to figure out how do we even price this because there's really nowhere to go. Like, they had to price these weird players up like Damian Harris, and they had to price Cam Newton up because you literally would not be able to hit 50,000 if they didn't randomly price all these players up. So I'm going to take it with a grain of salt when it comes to their pricing, but this doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. He's at 9,000. Demir Bird is at 6,800, and then you have Gunnar Olszewski and a bunch of no-name dudes at 600 or less. You really only have 2 options in this game for the Patriots at wide receiver, and the fact that they do not pass the ball much, and the fact that that Cam Newton only has 2 passing touchdowns this year, I don't know that I want a whole lot of these guys. Jacoby Myers and Demir Bird, I would lean more towards Demir Bird. That's just me personally. How do you handle this wide receiver core for the Patriots?
Gunnar and Isaiah Zuber, they might be interesting just because they're so cheap. Who knows what's going to happen? I would tend to lean a little more Demir Bird. He has a little bit more top-end speed and big play ability than Jacoby Myers. But Jacoby Myers is going to get probably a bulk of the targets. Again, I think this just makes it more of a unique opportunity for James White to end up with some more opportunities in the passing game. I think this just means you get a bigger bump to James White. I mean, I'd rather pay what is he? he is 6,400. Yeah, I'd rather just pay for him than Demir Bird or Jacoby Myers.
Absolutely.
And he could be their top receiver. So that's where I'm at with it. I may get one of these guys because I expect him to come in pretty low owned. So there might be a little bit of leverage on the table for playing him. Yeah, but really not much to say on there. I just think Demir Bird's faster, has higher ceiling potential just because of that big play ability. And I take that back. Not higher ceiling. He has better big play ability. I apologize for misstating. Jacoby Myers does have a higher ceiling because he's going to get the bulk of the targets. But again, he's just really expensive for me.
So I mean, yes, Jacoby Myers is definitely getting the bulk of the targets. When it comes to snap route or the snap rate, they're both at 100% last week, and the week before that, Demir Bird actually was at 95% and Myers was at 80%. Right. Last week, their routes run are around the same, around between 25 to 30, sort of every week. And when it comes to air yards, Myers is definitely ahead of Demir Bird, and target share, he's definitely ahead. Last week, Myers had 43% of the targets, and the week before he had 27 for the whole team. So he's definitely the number one target when Cam Newton drops back. But the problem is when he does drop back, it's not that often, and when he does, the guy just cannot complete a pass. So even though Jacoby Myers is the number one wide receiver option for the Patriots, I legit don't think there's a reason to have a lot of Jacoby Myers or Bird, because like you said, I'd rather have Rex Burkhead, James White, and I'd rather have those two guys in a lineup paired with Cam Newton. Now you have all the rushing on the team, which in this case is probably going to be a whole shitload. I just don't see how any of these other guys get there. But I'm going to try to spread out as much as possible because there is always opportunity for, Demir Bird to get 9 receptions from screen passes and slants and right. randomly get a reverse that he scores a touchdown. Something weird is going to happen in this game because these teams don't give a shit. I think the Patriots have some pride. They're the best team of the past 20 years. And they're going to want to, especially Cam Newton fumbling last week, he's got a lot on the line. I think he's going to come out and play great as best as he possibly can. But I don't think these receivers are going to benefit much. I think it's going to be him on the ground. I think they're going to run the ball quite a bit. Anything to add to these wide receivers before we move on?
No, man.
So, unfortunately, we have to talk about we have to talk about the Patriots wide receiver or the Patriots tight ends.
I'll take this one. I like Ryan Izzo.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ryan Izzo at 1.4K, I still think is a much better play than both wide receivers. Ryan Izzo is Bill Belichick type tight end. I mean, he's gonna play. I know I think recently is something like he was being used a lot more in pass or in run blocking situations. But I always think that he's a threat to do something on a Showdown slate. I mean, he could have one catch for 10 yards and a touchdown like Adam Troutman did tonight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look at his game log if I were you. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
But what I expect to be super low ownership at 1.4 thousand isn't bad. So I'll probably have a little bit of Ryan Izzo. And again, it's much harder to pass to miss those little short routes to your tight end. And if Cam Newton's sucking it up, they're probably going to be doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at it from a football aspect, I'm not even looking at his fantasy box scores. He's averaging for the whole season 80% snap rate. Last week he got 86%. He ran 11 routes last week. He's getting opportunity, and like we always say, Showdown for a guy who's $1,400, getting opportunity is one of the most important things you can have, because if they're not on the field, if they're not getting any targets at all, there's no chance that they score a single point. In this case, he's on the field quite a bit. He's getting some targets. It's not a lot, but you only need one 4-yard touchdown from a $1,400 guy, in a 41.5 total. You only need that once to be in the optimal and to win a lot of money. So there's a great point. Ryan Izzo is definitely, if he plays, is definitely an option. And if he doesn't play, I mean, Dalton Keene, I just don't know where to go with these guys. It's a dart throw. It's literally a lottery ticket. It's like going down to the 7-Eleven and
do it.
And getting a lottery ticket. And hey, sometimes it hits. Most of the times it doesn't. So just think about that. Let's move over to the Jets tight ends. And my God, Chris Herndon, this guy had I don't even know if I could talk about him. I played Chris Herndon so much this year at the beginning of the season. He has upside. He just cannot catch the ball. What are your thoughts on Chris Herndon? He's at 1,600. He's priced well. I think DraftKings priced him really well because if you look at his fantasy box scores this year, real quick, we'll go over his pricing. He's between 4,400 and 5,800 the entire season. Last week he was 4,600. Now he's at 1,200. So I think DraftKings is enticing us to want to play him because he does have relative upside. He got hurt 2019, but his 2018 season, he had multiple touchdowns that year. He had one stretch in 2018 where he had 3 touchdowns. He had a touchdown in 3 straight games. Is he the same player? I guess not from that injury, but I think he does have proven upside. What are your thoughts on Herndon and Wesco and Griffin if we even want to have them in our player pool?
Yeah, I don't even have Wesco in my player pool. Griffin, I won't touch. Herndon, I'll maybe have 1 or 2 lineups with him, just because whenever I played him enough too that if I can't miss a game that he has a touchdown, so I'll have 1 or 2 lineups with him. But other than that, I really don't plan on getting too much in here. This is a shit show. So
by the way, speaking of tight ends, Josh Hill just scored a touchdown, and on our show we talked about Josh Hill. Yeah,
I needed that. Not touchdown Josh Hill, but Drew Brees. I had an odds boost on Brees and Brady combining for over 3.5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought they had benched Brees, but I guess not. So he just hit his 4th touchdown. So I'm going to get the combined touchdown.
Nice, just for him.
Nice.
There you go. There you go. All right. So I don't personally think I'm going to get a lot of Herndon, but if his ownership is low, if everyone hates him just as much as I do, I might load up on him. I always like to try to find one player that I take a stand on. In my opinion, I just like doing that because it makes the rest of the building so much easier. Like Latavius Murray for this game. He's not doing great, but he's not doing terrible. If Latavius Murray scores 2 touchdowns in this game, I'm going to win a shitload of money. Probably not going to happen, but I like to take stands on certain players and try to mix them in as much as possible. I don't think I'm going to do it with Herndon, but if he comes in at 10% owned, why wouldn't I get, 30-40% of them? I have nothing to lose in a slate like this. You never know what can happen. All right. So kickers, we talked about Sam Ficken, and we're also looking at Nick Folk. He has an injury tag as well, but I didn't see him. Oh yeah, he is questionable. Interesting. So keep an eye on that, guys. Nick Folk is questionable. I don't see another Patriots kicker in the player pool. Here, let's pull that up. Let me pull that up real quick. Let me actually look at the DraftKings player pool. While I'm doing that, talk about your kicker and defense exposure for this game. I think defenses are absolutely in play in this game.
Yeah. I think all 4 are in play. I think you can double stack both defenses and you can double stack both kickers. I think that's going to be chalky to stack both kickers. I think the defense is not going to be very chalky, but there's no doubt in my mind that the Jets defense could end up being the highest scoring Jets player. They're probably going to get a fumble recovery too, and there's a good chance you're going to pick off Cam Newton. So, I mean, just between that and 2 sacks, you're all of a sudden at 6 points, and that's when you gave up 25 points. So I think the Jets defense is very much in play, as is the Patriots, obviously. I think the Patriots might be an interesting captain play at defense if they're coming in pretty low owned.
Yep.
But honestly, if you're throwing in both defenses, you could pretty much go however chalky you want at that point, because I'm not sure you're going to have as much of that. And then, well, to be fair, like a run game stack, you're still going to have to fade somebody out. But if you went 2 or 3 running backs, so the Patriots went both defenses and then threw in a kicker, like that might actually be fairly unique. And I'll probably have several variations of that tomorrow night.
So we're gonna build a lineup here in a minute. I think we should play with that. But yeah, go ahead, finish your point.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that's probably what I'm going to be leaning towards a lot. I think all 4 of these guys are in play for the first time on a slate that we've done. So,
I mean, think about this: with a 41.5 point total in 2020, to me, that's like in a normal year, that's low 30s, or that's a 35 point total. That's what it equates to. And if you saw that number, you would say, "Damn, we got to load up on defenses. We got to load up on kickers." I usually like to be contrarian when it comes to that stuff, but it's a popular opinion because it's probably right. And in this case, I think the Patriots at 7,400 are absolutely in play, and I think the Jets are too, because the Patriots offense is not good. They are not good at all. And even if they give up 3 rushing touchdowns, there's opportunity for a pick 6, for a fumble, for a safety, whatever it may be. I don't mind getting Patriots and Jets in the same lineup and maybe having a kicker in there too. I honestly feel more comfortable playing the Patriots defense at 7,400 than getting a Patriots wide receiver. Like, definitely, in my opinion. So we have to just check keep an eye on the ownership, because if they're mid owned, if they're like around 30% or 25%, I like them to be. I like them in my lineups at 50 or 60%. Anything else to add to any of these positions? Oh, actually, by the way, so keep an eye on the kicker. Keep an eye on the kicker position. The injury status of these guys. Nick Folk is questionable. I didn't see him on the injury report, but apparently in Fantasy Cruncher's telling me he's questionable. And there's not another Patriots kicker on the DraftKings slate. So if you want to load up on kicker for the Patriots, just keep an eye on him, because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of dead lineups that play Nick Folk if he's actually out. Obviously, they're going to sign another guy, but DraftKings is not going to add them to the slate, most likely. So just keep an eye on that. All right. Let's go to our fate of the night, Ellie. Tell me about your pick. Or picks.
Jets. Yeah, Jets, especially Flacco. Honestly, it's especially Jets, not just Flacco, right? I think this is going to be just an awful, awful game. That's why I am 100% okay with throwing a lot of Jets defense in there. I still think that they can get there. I think they can be the best point per dollar play that you're going to get from a Jets player. I don't feel like paying $9,600 or whatever it is for Joe Flacco when I can pay $3,600 and probably get the same amount of points.
Yeah.
So I'm not liking anybody on the Jets. The only real exception is Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I love Jamison Crowder for sure. I mean, realistically, if you went 4-2 stacks, 4 Patriots, 2 Jets, you could have the Jets defense. You could have the Jets defense and Jamison Crowder, or I personally would rather have the Jets defense in that stack, because a lot of times people aren't going to want to play those negatively correlated. Like, why would you put the Jets defense and then 4 Patriots in the same lineup? Well, it's Showdown. Anything can happen. If Pick Newton, that's what I should call him now, Pick Newton. If he throws a pick 6, that's only -1 points to him, but it's 6 points to the other team. There's not really a downside to that. If he fumbles, it's only -1 points for him. So anyways, my fate of the night is going to be Damian Harris, simply because of the pricing and because of how muddy the water is on this Patriots team when it comes to the running game. I think at 10.2K, I don't think he gets enough volume. And I think Cam Newton is the number 1 running back on the team. And from there, James White or Rex Burkhead is a better option because of they're basically spelling Cam Newton as the number one running back. Anything else to add? Actually, you know what? Let's just move on to our captain pick of the day because this is where things get interesting. This is where we're going to disagree a little bit. Ellie Hernandez, Damian Harris is your captain stand, and he's my fade of the night. Talk to me about Damian. Tell me quickly why you like him in this matchup.
I think Damian Harris is the best running back on the Patriots. I think they want him to be the number one guy and the workhorse. His injury situation has kept him extremely limited. And to be completely honest, I think he has the highest upside in the limited amount of touches that he's going to have. So his 30% of the field, he's the one that can bust it for an 80-yard touchdown. So that's most of it. And I really don't think salary is going to be a problem tonight. So I think building with him there is kind of the best bet.
That's a good point. I mean, you're right. Salary probably isn't an issue tonight because there's enough value out there, enough random people that you could throw in at $1,000 that you can even it out. For me, I'm gonna go James White for the reception upside. And just he has a track record with this team as being the go-to guy when it comes to pretty much any part of the game. He's going to be in the game quite a bit. James White is going to see a lot of receptions out of the backfield. He's going to see a random carry here and there. I think if I had to bet my life on one player in this game succeeding, I would say James White would be the guy. So I'm going to go with James White at captain. I don't think he's going to be that high owned. I think he's probably going to be in the 7% at the captain, hopefully less. Maybe he's around 4 or 5%, just because maybe people don't want to even mess with these guys. So the fact that you're playing Damian Harris and he's so expensive, I think he's going to be so low owned in the captain. I think it's a great play. Similar to the Ronald Jones play tonight. It's obviously that didn't work out, but I think people are so confused about what to do with this team's backfield that they're just going to avoid it altogether. Let's move on to let's build a lineup together, man. Let's do this real time. Who do you want to start with at captain?
You know what? Let's try this a little bit differently. You want to start with flex and kind of see where we land on captain?
Yeah, let's do it. So, do we want to throw in Cam Newton to start off in the flex?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, so Cam Newton in the flex. I love the headshot here. I love that. I love the headroom for the weird haircut. That's pretty awesome.
Right.
Okay, where do we go now? Guide me through.
I think we go with your guy, James White.
All right, let's do it. And by the way, we want to do a 4-2 here, right? Or do we want to do a 5-1? Just to plan ahead.
Probably 5-1.
All right, let's do a 5-1 or possibly a 4-2. Maybe we'll do a variant on it. All right, who's next? Do you want to go Damian Harris? Or do you want to throw him in the captain right now to see where it is? Where do you want to do?
Let's throw James White up in the captain spot and throw Damian Harris in the flex.
Okay. All right, James White, where are you, bro? There he is. All right, we'll throw Damian Harris in the flex. That gives us 3 Patriots. Let's find our 1 Jets or 2 Jets players here. We absolutely gotta go Jamison Crowder, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with Jamison Crowder.
So that leaves us with about 2,900 a pop. So what's our next option here? Do we want to play with a Jets defense? Do we want to do 2 more Patriots guys? How do we approach this?
I think honestly, this might be an interesting time to look at a guy like Ryan Izzo.
I was thinking the same thing. I already had him ready to be clicked. Yep.
And then you got 4,400.
So where does that put us? That puts us Jets defense?
Yeah, I like that.
Or you got Brashad Perriman. I mean, I think you can go either way. I mean, even looking at Jets defense there, That's
So I like
very unique in my opinion. Like obviously Ryan Izzo, no one's gonna have Ryan Izzo. I think he's gonna be 10% owned probably. But having Jets defense up against a 4-stack of Patriots is gonna be an interesting build for sure. You could also go with, Nick Folk here, or you could go with Brashad Perriman. So now you're eating up all the potential high upside touchdown plays if there's any touchdowns in this game. But DraftKings is a PPR site, so you could rack up a ton of points from just garbage time receptions for 5 yards here and there. Where would you lean if you had to submit this lineup? Where would you lean for that last spot?
Jets defense or one of these kickers, Nick Folk, even Sergio Castillo. If you think the game's going to be a little bit more competitive, I don't have an issue throwing in Brashad Perriman there, because that will be a fairly unique build. You're getting kind of two of the better players from the Jets in the same lineup. I know we talked about not stacking both wide receivers, but if you think that this game is going to be somewhat competitive, it's probably going to be because of those two guys at the very least, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a viable play. I don't think 3-3 is necessary on this slate.
No, definitely
and
not.
Honestly, you might, if you're comfortable with it, 3-3 is a unique way to get different on a slate like this.
Could be.
And then you don't have to take as many stabs. You can run a James White captain and then kind of fade, either Damian Harris, James Crowder, or Cam Newton, and then all of a sudden you've got your salary back. So yeah. I think it's going to be interesting, especially since people are going to be leaning towards 4-2 and 5-1. There might be interesting leverage on a 3-3. So the Perriman play isn't that bad, I don't think.
All right, so that's a pretty good lineup. Let's have some fun here, real quick. I want to do some crazy shit. This is where I have a lot of fun. So Patriots defense and the captain. Let's go Cam Newton, because I think we have to. I think Cam Newton will be the highest scoring guy in this slate for sure. Let's go Damian Harris. And where do you want to go from here? Do you want to put in a Jets defense? Do you want to go double defense?
Yes, Jets defense and James White, if we can.
Let's see.
It's going to take up a lot of salary.
5,100, dude. We saw 5,100 left. So we can get Denzel Mims. You know what? This is actually fucking sick right here.
Put him in there. Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I love this, man. I love it.
See, normally I would say this is the dumbest lineup I've ever seen in my life, but
yeah.
But look, the only thing that you could do differently here is maybe get a kicker in there. But again, that's going to be with the injury status on some of these guys. You never know, right? You may only get 2 extra points from one of the kickers, whereas Rex Burkhead could have a reception for 30 yards. So exactly. I don't know, man. I like that lineup, and I'll probably be playing.
I actually think I will submit this. Yeah, I mean this is pretty damn good. Now, in my opinion, if you put this in the biggest contest on DraftKings, you probably would only tie with us, because no one in their right fucking mind would play this. But in my opinion, I really love that kind of a lineup. Now, the safer pick would be to go with that. Put Castillo in there. You get your Jets defense and your Jets kicker. Or even, if you wanted to take a stab at one of these wide receivers, you got Brashad Perriman. So you go with Jets defense, you bank on maybe an interception for a touchdown or a couple of sacks, and then you go with Brashad Perriman randomly getting a long catch, or even a vulture touchdown here from Frank Gore. 2,300 to leave on the table. That's nothing. You shouldn't flinch at that. If you're flinching at 2,300 left on the table, you probably shouldn't play Showdown, because that's a normal amount of salary, especially on a slate like this, where typically speaking, everyone's going to try to jam in the highest median projected plays. In this case, if you go down a step, you're actually helping yourself, because I think Frank Gore is a better option than Castillo, potentially. I don't know. Anyways, anything to add to our fun little lineup build here?
No, man, I like that lineup. Honestly, I was playing with it a little bit earlier, looking at how I was going to try and get some of those builds in there. Because, I think the double defense is the I think it's going to be a little bit more chalky than we're anticipating, but I don't think people are going to stack it up with the run game. I think they're going to stack it up with kickers mostly. So, playing all 14 running backs, whatever it is the Patriots have, I think it's a viable option.
All right, so, our tradition is to sort of end the show with a prediction. What are your thoughts on this potential shit show? Do you have a final score for us?
Yeah, I think it's oh man. I don't know, dude. I think it's going to be 24-3.
Yeah, I think it's a 21-10 situation here. Patriots, obviously. But there is a world where this is a, 21-17 game randomly. I just don't think
one fumble recovery for a touchdown. I mean, you all of a sudden the Jets have points, right? And this is not the same thing as like the Redskins and the Giants playing, where you're going to have garbage offensive points because there's talent on that side of the ball. These are run-minded teams. Their talent is going to be more on the defensive side. Even the Jets, like they have some players on the defensive side of the ball. So I think it's just going to be, you're going to have opportunities for takeaways. You're going to have opportunities for defensive scoring. And I think you're going to have a unique opportunity to use both defenses. The Jets defense could get a touchdown tomorrow night, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Absolutely. And look, as we're talking about this, everyone in the world predicted the Buccaneers were going to win against the Saints tonight, and it's 38-3 right now in favor of the Saints. So if you simulate that game out 1,000,000 times, if you play it out 1,000,000 times, or let's just say 1,000 for easy math, 950, 980 times, whatever, probably the Bucs are going to win that game. But tonight is its own night. Anything can happen. So when we're talking about this particular game, I think the general consensus is obviously the Patriots are going to win this game. I don't think the Jets are an NFL team, so in my opinion, I think it's an easy choice that the Patriots are going to win this. But if the Jets were to keep it close, I wouldn't be totally surprised. Lead us out, Ellie. Any last thoughts? Any tips, advice, anything when it comes to this slate?
Only thing I got to say is I appreciate anybody who stuck around and listened to us talk about the Jets and Patriots for 45 minutes to an hour.
Dude, we're at an hour and 7 right now. We're at an hour and 7.
I really hope it was interesting. I thought it was, but man, the Jets are boring, dude, and so are the Patriots. Like, this is not going to be a fun game. So let's hope we can make money.
Exactly. It helps to talk these things out. For us personally, doing these shows is some of the best research we can possibly do. We're talking things out in real time. We're forming our own opinions. We're creating a stand on certain players. We're fading certain players. And just in real time, we're talking about it. Obviously, wait till ownership comes out tomorrow. And please like, subscribe. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on the YouTube chat or in the Discord. And we will see you for Thursday Night Football. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.